Breaking news today. King Boris of Johnson. Putin was the last thing on Prigozhin's mind. Boris Johnson, a former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has stated that there can be no peace talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin regarding Ukraine and that Putin must have killed Wagner boss Yevgeny Prigozhin. Johnson wrote an opinion piece for the Daily Mail on Saturday, days after a plane thought to be carrying Wagner boss Prigozhin crashed in a field north of Moscow on its way to St. Petersburg. It is currently unknown what caused the plane to crash, but U.S. and Western intelligence officials CNN spoke with all agreed that it was likely an intentional act. "I am certain that in that instant he knew with perfect clarity what had happened," Johnson wrote, referring to the Russian thug who blacked out in his vertiginous acceleration to Earth after the explosion in the otherwise reliable Embraer Legacy 600 executive jet. To be immolated with the rest of his Wagner Group companions in a fireball in the countryside of the Tver region north of Moscow, and then downwards, of course, for the shade of Prigozhin. Down to Hades and the Tartarian pit below, he knew whose hidden hand was sending him 28,000 feet down. The man behind the killing of Prigozhin, he continued, is the very same man who authorized, for instance, the poisonings in the UK of Alexander Litvinenko and Sergei Skripal. I would wager that as the detonation sucked the air out of the aircraft's cabin, the last thing on the doomed dome of Prigozhin's skull was Putin, preceded by one of the many obscenities in which the former jailbird and hotdog salesman was so fluent, as described by Johnson. 2 months to the day after Wagner's boss started a brief uprising in Russia, Prigozhin was presumed dead in a plane crash. The Wagner Group's future without Prigozhin has been called into question by industry experts. On Friday, the Kremlin claimed that DNA testing and other analyses were being conducted to confirm whether or not Prigozhin had died in the crash on Wednesday. Dmitry Peskov, a spokesman for the Kremlin, strongly refuted suggestions that Russian authorities were involved. He declared, "This is all a complete fabrication." On Thursday, Putin said he had known Prigozhin for a very long time, and he praised him as a talented man, a talented businessman. The idea that Putin would forgive Prigozhin for challenging his government was described by Johnson as the height of conceit in an opinion piece. "We are witnessing something truly historic as we watch the chilling footage of that plane crashing to the ground. This is a sitting head of state brutally eliminating his enemies on live TV. For the life of me, I cannot recall another world leader who displayed such brazen and unrestrained savagery," Johnson wrote. "I can finally take off the mask." Johnson summed up the situation by saying, "Putin has been outed as a gangster, and his ridiculous televised tribute to the deceased Wagnerites could have been lifted straight from the pages of The Godfather."